welcome to another episode of us and our book reviews. So today we'll be discussing Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. I'll just be straight with you right from the get-go. I did not like this book. I won't say I hated it, but it's close. It's a novel by Emily Tesh, and I'll read the blurb just to outline the story. So all her life, Kia has trained for the day that she can avenge the destruction of planet Earth. Raised on Gaia Station alongside the last scraps of humanity, she is one of the best warriors of her generation, the sword of a dead planet. Then Command assigns her brother to certain death and relegates her to the nursery to bear sons, and she knows she must take humanity's revenge into her own hands. Alongside her brother's brilliant but seditious friend and a lonely captive alien, Kia must escape from everything she's ever known. If she succeeds, she will find a universe far more complicated than she was taught, and far more wondrous than she ever could have imagined. Now, there is some trigger warnings at the beginning of this book. It's the first time I've actually seen a book have trigger warnings, but because we're going to be discussing the book in detail and there will be spoilers, I'll read them for you anyway. So, Some Desperate Glory contains sexist, homophobic, transphobic, racist and ableist attitudes, sexual assault including discussion of forced pregnancy, violence, child abuse, radicalisation as child abuse, genocide, suicidal ideation and suicide. So, as I said, there will be spoilers in this. Right from the get-go, we're going to go through all the parts and then you'll probably find out why I didn't like it at the end. Now, if this is on your to-be-read pile, don't watch this video until after you've read it. If this sounds like something that you want to go out and get and you don't want spoilers, come back to my video afterwards because there will be spoilers. There is going to be spoilers right from the beginning. You were warned. So this book starts with a David Attenborough style of descriptions of humans from an alien perspective, which is quite funny, and they do that at the beginning of each of the 5 parts, and that is one of a handful of its only redeeming qualities, is that those bits are quite funny. Now in part 1 we find our main character, Kia, full name Valkia, and she is in a simulation of Earth being destroyed, and the goal is not to let it happen. And they all live on a hunk of rock turned space station type of place where humans have ended up after an alien race known as the Major destroyed the planet Earth. And the Major are the de facto kind of rulers of the universe. Now, this space station type place is described as the only place where true humans are able to live and not be disturbed. And these true humans work for the good of all humanity by focusing their efforts on trying to come up with plans to destroy the Major and eradicate them entirely. Now, although this is presented as the normal behaviour, there are a few questionable practices, of course. Children from the age of 7 are trained in mainly combat. They're all indoctrinated into this revenge. There are different types of humans. There are sort of the normal humans, and then there are humans described as war breeds, which are sort of a higher hierarchy, but they are children who are genetically enhanced bloodlines from humanity's best soldiers. And here we get introduced to the commander of this space station, Aulus Joel, who is an impressively built war veteran who was there when Earth was destroyed. Because it didn't happen millennia ago, it only happened a few years. We also get introduced to Kia's twin brother Magnus, the mention of their older sister Ursa, who left the station under very shady circumstances. We are also introduced to the Wisdom, which is a technological entity that can predict everything that is going to happen. It predicts it for the Major, and the Major have these nodes on all the different planets of the universe, and the main Wisdom hidden away somewhere, and they can predict whatever's going to happen and put a stop to it before it happens. And as such, the universe is supposed to be at peace, but it's also the same thing that destroyed Earth. Now, to say Kia is hard to like would be an understatement. She is arrogant, she is selfish, and she is the only point of view that you get through this book. She is insufferable. She thinks of nothing but how good she is for the future of all humanity. Only her, nobody else, just her, and how focused she is on bringing the revenge against the Major. Her group, her mess group, there's sort of like an army hierarchy, of course, consists of herself as the self-appointed leader because she is the best of the best of the best in her mind. Cleo, Zen, Lizabelle, Gian, Victoria, Artie, and we do get a bit of family history in here as well. Ursa is branded a traitor for leaving and abandoning the human race. Their father and mother are dead and they have absolutely no interaction with them because as babies, once they are born, they are handed over to another sort of person to raise, so they don't have that parental attachment or loyalty. They don't know hardly anything about their parents. Ursa was the only one that was conceived and birthed naturally. Magnus and Kia were sort of test tube babies that were created from the DNA of their parents after they were dead. It's a lot. Now, there are several different fields on which the people have to train and to which they get assigned once they're ready. So we have Ferox, Sithaka, Augusta and Victrix as the combat wings of different things, and that's where the elitist, the best of the best goes. You have Systems, Sun Tracker and Agricole are the ones that keep the station alive. So Systems is technology, Sun Tracker is to get the solar power to power the station, and Agricole is agriculture. Nursery and Oikos are the other two, which are areas that are very much looked down on. Nursery, of course, is birthing babies for the future of the human race, and Oikos is the maintenance to keep the station running, which are seen as lower jobs, and you only get those if you're absolutely crap at everything else. And there is one more, which is shrouded in mystery, called Strike. Most people don't believe that that's an actual thing. It's spoken of in dark corners occasionally, and most people on the station believe that it is enemy propaganda. And now it comes to the first kind of conflict. The Sparrows as a group start getting assigned to their future life work, and they all get assigned as they predict that they will be, and eventually all that is left is Kia and Cleo. And now Kia starts worrying a little bit because of population targets for this station. At least two of their mess group would have to go to nursery, and so far only one has. And Kia and Cleo are, I wouldn't say friends at all. In fact, none of their mess group is friends with Kia. Most of them can't stand her, and to be honest, I don't blame them. But they know that one of them will have to go to nursery. Kia believes that it's going to be Cleo, Cleo believes that it's going to be Cleo, and Kia is insufferable in these chapters because all we keep going around is the merry-go-round and thoughts in her head that it couldn't possibly be her because she's too good, but then it might possibly be her because she is so good. She can't think of a worse fate than having to birth babies for the rest of her life, rather than going out and fighting. So this goes on for a few days, and believe me, those days drag, until Kia finally gets fed up and goes to speak to her uncle Joel and asks what is happening with Cleo and herself. And of course the crumbs leading up to this are so big that a duck would choke, because of course Kia gets assigned to nursery to birth babies for the good of Earth, and Cleo gets combat wing. And to say that Kia is flabbergasted about this is a hell of an understatement, even though we can see it coming 5 chapters ago. Usually they don't talk back, they don't ask questions, they don't kick back in any sort of way. Nobody does on this station. And she asks him why she's been assigned to nursery when all her scores are the top of the station. And he replies that he gets that, and she is the warrior who will birth Earth's children. Yikes. Now, through all this conflict and these days of back and forth, Kia can't find her brother to find out where he was assigned. Nobody will speak of him. There is just a complete wall of silence around him. Now, she goes to find who her brother has been spending time with, which is a male by the name of Avicenna, who works in systems. And he's obviously gay. And Kia's point of view on this, she is so homophobic. You just want to cringe for her. She persuades him that if he actually liked Mags, they would hack the system to find out where the hell he was, because she was worried about him, and as his friend, he should be worried about him as well. So it turns out that Joel assigned Mags to this strike missions, and strike missions are a suicide mission, basically. That's what they are. And it's only now that her brother's in danger that Kia feels that the station has got it wrong. She already thought that they had got it wrong with her, because how could she ever be assigned to just birthing babies when she is a warrior? And now that Mags is been assigned to strike, she thinks that the station has misinterpreted their worth, and she's gonna go rescue him and prove to Joel that she's better utilised as a fighter rather than a breeding machine. Now, Avi wants to leave too, and to be quite honest, I don't blame him. He seems more awake of the people that we've met so far about what the station's true goals are and what the whole thing is around them. And he knows that if he stays on the station, he will end up getting killed. So they decide that the best course of action to get off the station is to go and take an alien spaceship which has just been captured, and in so doing, release the alien so that he can fly it. The breakout is successful, and they go into the hangar to get this plane, and Kia is stopped by Cleo. Where the ship is her hangar. So they have a fight, and Cleo stabs her in the leg. So they all get into the ship and they all escape with one goal in mind. They track Magnus to the planet Chrysothemis on the edges of the city of Reingold, and they end up living in a shack on the edge of the city, and Kia has to rest for a couple of weeks because of the stab wound that Cleo gave her. They don't need a doctor in this. The war breed humans self-heal. And there is quite a humorous back and forth between Kia and Iso. The alien can't go out, and it's Avi that has to go out and get them food and everything. This little paragraph in particular, unfortunately, then Iso woke up again and turned out to be chatty. So Kia hated him after all. Not the way you were supposed to hate Majo, with the cold, implacable fury of the living hand of vengeance. She hated him roughly the same way she hated doing nursery rotations, supervising 6-year-olds who just never stop talking. Being in her head is hard. And Kia gets annoyed with him for the simple reason is that he is chatty, and he asks her all these questions about Gaia Station and what goes on there, and Iso's questions end up unlodging something in Kia's questionable mind as to why things are why they are. Kia didn't care that Iso hadn't liked her home. He was an alien. She came from the last fortress of the Patriots. He wasn't supposed to like her home. But he said other things, niggling things that stuck in Kia's head, and as she was explaining it, Kia found herself wondering things she'd never really wondered before. Why was it exactly that Command deserved more of a stake in the genetic future of humanity than serving soldiers? Why could Admiral Russell put his hands all over Lizabel, and why couldn't Kia stop him? So nursery, I don't know whether I've explained this, but once you get assigned to nursery, you are basically a vessel to be used by any and all who see fit. You get no say in the matter. You are just there to service whoever comes in and requires servicing. So Avi eventually gets back, and he gets back with the information that Mags is staying in an apartment in the city, and he gives her the address but won't go with her. So Kia sets out to find him, and the apartment ends up belonging to their sister Ursa. Now there's a reunion between Kia and Mags explains that he's not doing the strike mission. He took it as a way to escape the station, and he's going to school here. He's going to university. He wants to better his life. He says the station is stifling and their ideology is extremely flawed. Kia won't hear of it, says that their sister Ursa has corrupted his belief. Ursa tries in her turn to get through to Kia, explaining why she left, even though there's so many breadcrumbs. Ursa was promoted at a very young age to be Joel's right hand. Her bed was moved into his apartment, and it was always whispered that she was getting special treatment. So in their trying to get through to Kia is so dense and you just want to reach through and shake her, because she explains everything away, that Ursa is a traitor to humanity and Mags is now a traitor as well. This bitch. Now Kia intends to fulfill Mags's strike mission herself, wreaking vengeance on the Majo for the destruction of Earth. It's very drilled into you that is her belief. So if you didn't know it already, this is a cult. I mean, it's glaringly obvious, but that is what they are. So Kia is hell-bent on this mission to kill one of the Princes of Wisdom, who is one of only a handful of the Major that can actually access this wisdom computer thing. Bless you. Now, she intends on doing this even though that she knows that she's going to be killed in the process. And for someone who keeps saying that she's fighting for the last bastion of humanity, it's kind of ironic that she has not one shred of humanity in her. We're in part 3 and she is still a heavily unlikable character. And to be honest, even by this point, I did not care whether she made it out alive or not. She tracks the wisdom down to this cavern, she goes in it, there is an incident and Mags has to save her because he's been following her because he knows what she's like. They come upon Avi, who is down there with Iso, and Iso is badly beaten, and now Avi is still trying to hack into this wisdom computer, and he gets word that Prince LaRue, who is the main prince of the wisdom and Iso's eldest brother, is coming down 2 days early, and Kia has to go and intercept him and try to kill him before he gets to the chamber. He knows that she's there, they have a back and forth, he gets into the chamber, and Avi now controls the wisdom. He gets rid of LaRue's bodyguards by just squelching them, is the nicest way of saying that. And this leaves Kia and Mags to kill LaRue. Mags succeeds in killing him, but isn't happy about it. Kia is happy about him dying, but not happy that she wasn't the one to do it. And that says a lot about her character. We're still here with her. Avi takes control of the wisdom and uses it to Thanos snap half the universe out of existence. After he's Thanos snapped half the Major universe and everybody in it, it's only now that Kia has a small attack of conscience for all these people dying, and she goes up to him and she breaks his nose. Now Mags, who is sort of kind of in a relationship with Avi, they quite love each other kind of, but they don't show it. Well, Mags shows it, Avi does not. And now that Mags sees what Avi has become, what he has done, and because Mags is more sensitive, he just casually walks up in front of him, puts a gun to his head and unalives himself in front of both of them. Now you would think that Kia would have some emotional reaction to her twin suddenly unaliving himself, but no, she is angry at Avi for letting himself get that far, and she kills him. Then she goes to Iso. Now Iso has been revealed as one of the princes of the wisdom, and he can control a little bit of it, but Kia goes in to do the doomsday scenario, of which she was doing when we first met her in training. She collects the bomb that was going to kill Earth, and she time flips it out of that current existence, chucks it somewhere else, and that's where it goes off. Kia's character can be explained away by some that they're all the players in this are only 17 and younger. She's still insufferable. She really is still... I hope she dies soon. But we're on to part 4. Now this is a jarring time because all through these parts, all the way to near the end of the book, you are in one time slip. Now it has a time jump, a time slip, whatever, a reality shift, and that is quite jarring. It actually threw me out of reading it, and I was like, now Kia is now 23. Her conscious is in her other reality's body, along with that reality's conscious, and they can talk to each other. She has a whole different life, and she's known as Val instead of Kia, and she is rooming with her best friend Cleo. Iso finds her, and it looks like he's been searching for years, and he ain't in too great shape by doing it either. So the Kia or Val, Cleo, and Mags/Max, as he's known in this one, all go to destroy the wisdom in this reality in the Hall of the Wise, which is being guarded by a dreadnought ship that Joel has, because Earth didn't explode, Joel is now the de facto ruler of humanity and is still determined to take out their alien enemy, the Majo. Now, they get to the Hall of the Wise, they get to where the wisdom is, and Avi is, again, trying to hack into it. In this reality, he has no notion of anything that has gone before. He's just doing what comes naturally to douchebags. So, struggle ensues when Issa tries to get into the wisdom, having disabled Avi, and Joel shows up and promptly disables Mags, Cleo, and Kia, and uses the wisdom himself to destroy half the known universe, just like a repeat of the last one. Kia crawls to Issa and they ask her if she could do it all again. Would she? And of course she says yes. This whole part 4 with them in the alternate reality, I don't even see why it was needed. You barely spend any time with her, it's hella confusing and just... But now we are into the last part, part 5, and we get another time slip, another reality shift. Because we haven't had enough of those. And everyone is back on Gaia Station. It is right back at the beginning of the book. But this time, the one change that has happened is that in the process of doing this time slip for unknown reasons to everybody else, the wisdom has destroyed itself. Because it does have a consciousness of its own and can see what it's been used for, etc. And Joel is hell-bent on taking over the planet Chrysothemis. He tells his followers that it's to destroy the Majo that's on there and to allow the humans that live there to be more like they were. But Kia and of course the reader know that the only reason that Joel is going after this planet is because Ursa is there with Ali, his son. And she was the only one to ever escape him. But Kia is different this time. She's not as blinkered. She's not exactly empathetic, but she's not as blinkered. She is open to other people's worth rather than what they can do for humanity and what she can do, and that is that. So she goes and tells Mags of this reality absolutely everything that's happened. Everything that happened in the original reality, everything that happened in the time flip, and everything that is going to happen in this one that she believes from everything that happened before. There's a lot of exposition here. She rallies her mess around them, but I think she does it far too easily and they forgive her far too quickly for her brutalisation of them in years past. The first time that she shows a shred of humanity, they're all like, yay, let's do it! Let's stick it to the man! So in this reality, because Earth wasn't destroyed, they all get assigned to nursery and they're all not happy about it. And they still break Issa out with... Now, instead of nursery this time, Kia is the only one who is promoted to something else, and she's promoted to Joel's right-hand person. And it is heavily implied that that is going to be in the literal sense as well. She is a replacement for her sister, as her sister was a replacement for their mother. Now, because of Joel's new military conquest to take back this planet, he is redoing one of the dreadnoughts up. Now, Kia makes the decision, along with her messmates, that this is the dreadnought that they're all going to escape on. And the other messmates say, well, we've got to take all the nursery because what about all the children? You can't just Anakin Skywalker them and you have to take them with you. So they decide that the whole of the nursery wing is going to come along, everybody in it as well, because they're going to liberate them from being just breeding stock. A few of the other ones say, well, you've got to take this wing and that wing. In fact, you've got to give it up to anybody who wants to leave. You have to give them the choice. It is the human way. And Kia agrees. Now, these plans that all these people have and not one of them slips up are all going swimmingly until Kia gets cornered by two of the teacher leaders called Lynn and Harrigan, who know everything because although Avi works in systems and thinks of himself as a genius, Lynn is the teacher leader of systems and knows exactly what he's been doing because he's been leaving a trail. And only now does it come out that some of them have second thoughts about Joel's quest and his ideations and the whole of the station. Not one thing is mentioned before about this, but it is only now that, and it is only these two teachers who have access to this, that know what they're doing, and they are on board with helping. Now, Joel gets Kia on this dreadnought ship in the same place where her mother was killed. This is the dreadnought ship that he is rebuilding, which was her mother's ship. There's so many issues with these people, Jesus Christ. And he makes a move on her. He forces himself on her, but only kisses her, nothing else yet. Although it's heavily implied that after this dreadnought ship and after this conquest of this planet, that is what will be happening, and she will like it. So now there is a huge confrontation on the deck of this dreadnought because Mags has been found that trying to break Iso out of the cell. The plan gets into motion to buy them time. Lynn says that it's all her idea and she baits Joel. There's a big exposition dump of what happened on the day that Earth was destroyed, and there's just information coming at you, just bombarding you with everything that's ever happened, and how which characters they're feeling, and which characters played what part, and which characters did not. And some of these characters you don't even know. You spend absolutely no time with them throughout the book, and then suddenly they're all important. So Joel kills Lynn and then disappears with Iso in the ensuing struggle when a call to arms goes out and the station is getting simulated bombarded. But eventually Kia and Co have control of this dreadnought ship that is able to be flied, and they have 12 minutes before Gaia Station blows up because Avi, he put in a self-destruct sequence, because of course he did. Why she didn't think of that when he had already unalived half the universe in a previous time slip. Kia goes after Iso because she has another attack of consciousness and she says no one should be left behind, but instructs them, Avi and Mags, Avi especially because Mags wouldn't listen, to, if she doesn't make it back in time, they are to leave without her. She catches up to them in the shadow engines, which are the engines that run the simulations. They also run most of the station. And there isn't even sort of a back and forth argument here. There isn't sort of a dump. There's no great big epic battle. Joel just gets unalived in multi-dimensional pieces, essentially. But the self-destruct sequence of this planet is in motion and things are just collapsing, and Iso and Kia are trapped. She radios the dreadnought ship saying, leave, we can't get out, just take everybody and go, you've got all the children, you've got everybody that you need, just go, essentially, shoo. Now Kia is resigned to her fate and so is Iso, but then the wisdom pops in her head. For some reason, it's in her head. It says that it didn't destroy itself, it only destroyed part of itself, and is literally all that is left is sort of, they say it's like a bucket of water from an ocean. And the wisdom saves them, puts them on Iso's ship that was still in the hangar, and they are bound for the planet, and that's where it ends. And my god, I wish it had ended sooner. The only thing I have to say about this is that the cover art is nice and you know, it's pretty. So I hated that there was so much going on at once. It feels like the first sort of 2-3 parts were going along as they should, and then it all just feels so crammed and rushed. The second half of the book, like, it should have been a trilogy, or it should have been 2 books instead of just the one. Jesus Christ, does it feel rushed. Kia as a central character is so bloody awful through the whole of the book that by the time you get to her redemption arc, right at the end, the last few pages of this book is where she gets her redemption arc. And to be quite honest, this is where she gets her redemption arc, this bit. The last pages. She's been insufferable through all this. And by that point, you just don't care. In fact, I was hoping that she would actually sacrifice herself and just die. I found that the surrounding secondary characters were a lot more interesting. So you've got like Mags and his emotional vulnerability, Avi with his emotional vulnerability that's better covered up, and his hatred of the ideations that this cult has. Any one of those sparrows, Cleo, Lizabelle, I felt were more characters that needed more fleshing out, and I would have liked to have spent more time with them. In fact, it might have even been better that we didn't have it all from Kia's point of view, that there were multiple points of view in this. Like you saw it from Mags's point of view, or you saw like the hangar scene from Cleo's point of view, or you saw some from Joel's point of view. And while we're on the subject of Joel, for someone who's supposed to be the big bad of the universe and the big bad of humanity and this awful cult leader, he is so goddamn boring and one-dimensional. And you don't even get a big exposition from him. And his character was nowhere near menacing or dangerous enough for the type of things that he's done in the past. And I feel that a lot more could have been done with him. And don't even get me started on the easiness with which he was dispatched. He was dispatched in a sentence. There wasn't even anything leading up to it. There wasn't anything mentioned after it. It just sort of a blip and oh yeah, he's gone in multi-dimensional pieces. Hee hee. And there's next to no explanation in this book of what things are. So you get that they're shadow engines, but you don't know really what they do or what any implications could be. The wisdom is badly explained as sort of a godlike piece of technology, but you don't get where it came from. You don't get what else it can do, why you have to run simulations in it, what else it's been a part of history for. You get nothing. And the whole history of what happened on that last time of Earth and everything that happened leading up to Gaia Station being occupied is just glossed over as cheap filler. That should have been a chapter on its own, or should have been a few chapters of events which transpired there. It was all just so crammed together that you just have information just hitting you all at once, and although it kind of makes sense, it really doesn't, and it could have been just half a book on its own, which is why I say that it could have been a trilogy rather than a single one, and it might have even done better as a trilogy. There would have been more character building, you would have found out more about the history of everybody else on the station rather than them, and for a book that has literal space Nazis, this book manages to make them boring, and they're not even that menacing of an enemy. They're sort of like a fly that's sort of buzzing around every now and then. They're not the menacing entity that I think they should have been. So if you haven't gathered by now, this is not my favourite book at all. It lost me about halfway in part 2, which is way too early to lose a reader. And if I wasn't so determined to finish it, then I probably wouldn't have finished it at all. So for me, this book has 2 stars. It only gets 2 instead of 1 because I liked the character of Issa and I liked the character of Cleo, and I kind of like the character of Lizabelle as well. But other than that, I just didn't like it. But if this is something that you would like to read, have at it. It's not often that I don't like a book, but let me know what you think about our epic space book. Comment down below. Don't forget to like it, and I will see you all next time. Keep reading.